The Western Conference Finals underway. The Eastern Conference Finals tip off tonight. To discuss that and also the looming non-playing season and NBA draft, our friend from The Athletic, senior NBA writer Sam Amick, back here in the program. How you doing, Sam?
Good morning, Rich. Doing great. Thanks for having me out here in OKC.
Always.
What's going on, sir?
Oh, well, you tell me. What was it like in the building last night?
Marketing is a funny thing. A lot of times sports franchises opt for hyperbole, if that makes sense. But the Thunder calling themselves Loud City is on point. This might be the loudest arena in the league. I haven't been here for a while. Obviously, they fell off until last year. But my gosh, it is decibel levels on 10 and honestly a really good energy. I mean, it's a college type crowd and that's the part of the country we're in. So loud and raucous and obviously happy after the way game one ended for their team.
Do they lead the association in fans dressing alike? Sam?
They are pretty aggressive about, they give the t-shirts and they're not the only team that does this, but if you don't put it on, then there's a little shaming that happens on the jumbo.
Like Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones, they ring the bell, but they put those people on the jumbotron who are not wearing the shirts.
Correct. And here's the best part, because this is gonna dovetail nicely with the LA part of you.
Yes.
My favorite, Ramona Shelburne took a picture of this and it was amazing. My favorite outlier is the one and only Jimmy Goldstein.
Of course.
Yes. So Jimmy, for anybody watching and listening who doesn't know, is, kind of NBA #1 fan, celebrity, and an older man at this point who wears incredible, he's a fashion designer as well. So he's got his one-of-a-kind fit on and he has the best seat in the house sitting courtside. And so you will just have this sea of white Thunder t-shirts and then one guy on the floor who is certainly not going to put that t-shirt on.
Well, and then we'll get to the basketball part of this. What the Thunder should do is they should give away Jimmy outfits and have them, all the fans, wear them.
That's a lot of work.
Dress like Goldstein. It's expensive. It'll be pricey. It'll be pricey because I'm sure what Jimmy wears.
Python ain't cheap.
Yeah. You should make a bumper sticker out of that. Python ain't cheap. All right. So Loud City is 1-0 now, Sam. And so the conversation coming out of these games is that SGA has sort of earned the crown of MVP that he's going to get, I believe, tonight, Sam. But the question is he getting too much of the benefit of the doubt and whistles that the Nuggets thought he did not deserve and was flopping for? What's your 2 cents on this subject matter with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky conversation. Incredible player. You kind of alluded to it before I hopped on, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. The one thing that gets lost in the conversation and amidst, all the frustration about how often he goes to the line is that for me, the saving grace, or at least one of them, is that the numbers will tell you, like, this dude is attacking the paint at a rate that is elite. And in terms of the actual percentage of time that he goes to the line in relation to attacking the rim and attacking the paint. I earlier in the season, I had compared him to Jimmy Butler, and it's like Jimmy's rate, is far greater than SGA's. And so the point is that he is the way he plays is advantageous on that front because he can obviously finish and get the job done without the whistle. But he also has become, you call it a foul merchant, call it a free throw merchant, call it just crafty. He's become very adept at also getting the whistle. That play, I think third quarter last night when Edwards is guarding him on the left side and he drives, and it was kind of SGA all in one play where he finished with that floater off the glass and also got the call. And that's what he's been doing all year. That's why he's going to be MVP. And it doesn't make me as mad as others. Honestly, aesthetically, it's not to me as bad as like peak James Harden. But I get it because it certainly affects the viewing experience for fans.
Yeah, he had 14 free throw attempts in game one, Sam. The rest of his teammates a combined 12. Yeah. So, and you could already see Chris Finch choosing his words carefully when it comes to the whistles and the frustration that the Timberwolves were definitely showing. I don't think it's going to change until maybe they get to Minnesota. I don't know. So what do you think the Timberwolves' approach to Game 2 will be differently? Best you can tell.
Yeah,
Sam.
but I'm to your point. I'm curious. We're about 2 hours away from Chris Finch doing media at a hotel here in OKC, and I will certainly be stopping by to see what type of tone he decides to take. Last night I wasn't at his press conference, but I heard that basically he took the high road and was fairly political. I think once he wakes up this morning and sees video and thinks about the fact that a 2-0 deficit would be pretty tough to come back from. I wouldn't be shocked if he escalates that conversation today. Beyond that, I don't know. I feel like the Timberwolves are better equipped to beat the Thunder than the Nuggets were, which is saying something considering they pushed them to 7 games. But the Julius Randle first half versus second half was, the story of last night. And I don't know what that means for the rest of the series because, he's not going to be Karl Malone in his prime all the way through, and they can't count on that. And they just didn't have enough. Ant wasn't, fantastic. That Thunder defense, I mean, it is a star player soul sucker. You know what I mean? Like it did it to Joker. One of the tougher series I've ever seen him have. And Ant, he had this energy yesterday, this kind of alpha male, and I'm, really like, I'm going to show you that I'm better than SGA edge to him, and it didn't matter. It just didn't. He just couldn't do enough. So I'm not sure exactly what they need to do.
Well, I mean, you could see that Oklahoma City being long and tall, certainly on the perimeter, right? Two-way players all over the place, big men underneath. You could see that's already a blueprint that other teams in the association are following, right? You could take a look at, say, again, we'll turn to the Knicks in a second. You look at the Pistons, for instance, right? They're kind of, there's a bunch of teams that are building similarly to what Oklahoma City is building, which leads me to my last question here. Have we gotten out of they're going to be in the business for Giannis woods because of how they're doing right now, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I poked around on that the other day and got like a fairly firm, like, no, that's not what we're doing. Like we're trying to be contenders for a decade. And no offense to Giannis, but he's not he's still only 30, but he'll be a 4-year-old in a decade. That's my, Sac State math here. They want this group to be together for a long time. And it's hard to not assume, and I've gotten some of these indications that, that not to go too big picture, but that it is, at least partly informed by the kind of the origin story here, right? The fact that James Harden getting traded to Houston because they couldn't get that extension worked out back in 2012, their big three of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James, after that finals run, just kind of, we'll never know what might have been because they did break it up and they did take a different approach. Now that's obviously apples to oranges when you talk about trading for somebody like Giannis. They traded for Kevin Martin and Jeremy Lamb, but the point is that like they are, very patient and excited about this group and do not appear to have any intentions of moving off of them.
Sam Amick here on the Rich Eisen Show from The Athletic, zooming in from Oklahoma City. So the series between the Knicks and Pacers, in your estimation, is gonna come down to what, Sam?
I mean, the first thought is just it's not exactly outside the box here, but the star power component, Jalen Brunson is just incredible. And when I did our little predictions and picked Knicks in 7, I mean, that was the tipping point for me, is that, Tyrese has been fantastic. I've admittedly this is a selfish me thing, but like I've enjoyed this hilarious subplot of, it was our place that had the anonymous player poll where he was voted most overrated, and it's become, fuel for his fire during this whole playoff run. But Jalen is a difference maker to me, who I think is going to get them over the top. And I just am impressed with their like shape shifting on the Knicks side of identity. This was a team where we questioned their grit and their toughness earlier on when you had Karl-Anthony Towns, being swapped, for Julius Randle, who was a tougher player by all accounts. And they have, like, whether it's the the kind of iron sharpens iron part of the first round when, playing against Detroit. And you kind of alluded to it earlier. I think that type of matchup, got them ready for this run. But the Pacers are tough, man. I mean, it's a fun story. Yeah, nobody thought they were actual title contenders all season long. They start 10-15. So I wouldn't be shocked if my prediction's wrong, but I think the Knicks pull it out.
You sure you're not choosing the Knicks because you don't want to be hounded like Windhorst if you're wrong by the Knicks fans afterwards, Sam? Did you see that one?
I thought I did
Poor
see
Brian.
it. Yeah.
Poor Windy.
Poor Brian. I saw somebody in the weeds, but someone last night asked me because Brian was at the game and didn't sit in the bowl. And a media member was wondering why he would do that. And I was like, well, did you see the video of like he doesn't want to interact with fans? Like that's, I thought you were going to say, are you sure you don't want the Knicks to win because you'd rather be in New York City for the NBA Finals?
No. I'm not saying that at all.
Also
Listen,
true.
But that all said, though, Sam, it seems like you're saying it's going to be like a WWE SmackDown at the Garden. It's going to be Halliburton versus Jalen Brunson. Like the wrestling folks had that kind of right? They kind of called their shot.
And they do, but I don't know how you feel about this. I think I'm ready for Mr. Halliburton to get back in the ring. Like,
you mean his dad?
Yes.
Outside
come on.
I don't know.
You made a mistake. This is too much.
No, he's been banned for the rest of the playoffs, it appears, or who knows. So what is the Giannis latest? What do you think? We're still too soon for this? When do you think this pops, Sam?
My understanding is, that he's still, reading the room. That's the phrase I keep going back to. That he has not met with the Bucks in any formal capacity to discuss things. He obviously is talking to his people. He has a pretty small group. His brother, of course, Thanasis, is a big part of that, and his right-hand guy. He is, it's going to be, I think, a slow process. It will start with their group having more of a formal meeting, and I believe he's back in Greece at the moment. Then it'll be, followed by meeting with the Bucks, and from there, it's just a matter of how did he feel about the conversation. It's so interesting, though, the context having changed, and even since the Bucks season came to an end, when you think about it, like if I'm John Horst, the Bucks GM, I'm going to for sure find some time to lay out for Giannis that and you're not trying to benefit from somebody's misfortune, but hey, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, and the Celtics were already going to have to probably bust up their roster in some capacity because of the second apron luxury tax hell that they're in. The point there is like a team like Boston not only wasn't able to defend their title, but is going in the wrong direction. The Cavs, who you thought looked like an absolute juggernaut, got bounced. The Bucks, didn't look like they were on the level with any of those teams during the season, but the East just got a little more flat, if that makes sense. And that, might help the Bucks make their pitch in terms of imploring Giannis to have some patience. If he doesn't have the patience and he does raise his hand and say, I think I'm ready to go, then obviously we have a massive story and the type of thing where every team in the league is going to be trying to get in the mix there.
Well, then what guides it then, Sam? Because again, just to circle back to the earlier part of our conversation, the Thunder did advance the Western Conference Finals. They are 3 games away from the NBA Finals. The reason why a lot of people are mentioning them as a Giannis destination is because they got the picks and the kids to send back to the Bucks, the players, to make something like that happen. They have the stuff, and there's a couple other teams that do have something that they can maybe flip to the Bucks to make something like that happen, unless Giannis raises his hand and names the team he wants to go to. Yeah. And thus the Bucks might not get a similar return. How do you think this does play out, Sam?
This is my, just to be clear for the aggregating audience.
Nice.
This is speculation, this is just my own opinion.
Do not aggregate, says Sam Amick. Do not aggregate. Okay.
No, if I had to handicap it, I think if he did say he wants out, I feel like he would name a team or two, that he would be specific. I don't think he's going to, he's not trying to help the Bucks to make sure they get maximum return. If he's ready to go, it's to go somewhere specific. And that would obviously limit what they get back. Because then, if it's, I mean, let's say the Knicks fall short and it's like, hey, I could go be the king of the garden, which I do. Yeah, we don't talk about the Knicks that much, but I know Giannis fairly well. Like, that's the one that tugs at me a bit, because the business side of his brain is about as cutthroat and kind of, global, if you will, as anybody in the NBA. And I could see that unfolding potentially. Maybe he goes the other way and wants to play with Steph Curry, though I don't think that's, the one that he would go for. But I think he probably would pick a team or two, and then they would, have to figure out how can they maximize the return in that context.
How about the Lakers to finish up? Because that's another way of me asking about a team that a lot of people are interested in that don't appear to have too many avenues to make big moves unless maybe Giannis just chooses them, Sam, right?
I don't see that, because we learned not that we didn't know this season with the Bucks, when Damian Lillard was out because of the blood clot. We kind of got reminded that Giannis really likes the ball in his hands. And he had, I don't know if you ever saw it, Rich, he had this quote that, I think everybody in the organization certainly took notice of, where he talked about, it was kind of a reach of an analogy to a cookie jar. And if you are an only child with a cookie jar, then you just take whatever cookie you want. And that the point was that if you have the ball all the time, you do whatever you want with it. But if you got a bunch of siblings, then you hold the cookie jar a little tighter and you're picky about which cookie, like you got to fight for the ball, essentially. And that messaging is something I think should be remembered going forward, because a situation like the Lakers, like, I don't see it, because I don't think he feels like sharing the ball with Luka. And I think, honestly, if Damian Lillard didn't get hurt, and their relationship's great, so I'm not saying it's like they weren't clicking thing, but like, I think Damian probably would have gotten traded, and part of the motivation would have been that Giannis was ready to try it with the ball in his hands most of the time again. So to me, the Lakers has got some issues.
Well, then that would eliminate the Knicks too, wouldn't you say? I mean, Brunson's got that ball in his hand quite a bit, but at some point, I guess he's going to have to realize that, or maybe, Sam, you were misreading it. It just means Thanasis never got a cookie as a kid, like, ever. Could be that too.
He's a pretty svelte guy. I mean, maybe. That is it.
Sam, thanks for the time, man. Look for more of my texts to you for more visits over the next several weeks. Thanks for the time.
Of course.
Always
enjoy it. Thanks, Rich.
Safe travel. Sam Amick, senior NBA writer for The Athletic, here on The Rich Eisen Show. So there you have it. Catch The Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.